Hey everyone, this is my brother Michael.
My brother Adam.
We're the Scharff Brothers.
You're listening to Mentoring for the Modern Musician.
Hey everyone.
Hey everyone, welcome back.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back to another riveting episode of Mentoring for the Modern Musician.
And this one, we're going to call this the South by Southwest episode.
Yes.
Right?
With A.J. Tobey.
With A.J. Tobey. Well, because...
Head of A&amp for Rough Trade Publishing.
Exactly. And I cannot think of a person that I would rather talk to about South by.
No, I can't either. Because he doesn't complain about it.
No.
I think he actually likes...
He does.
I really do. I think he actually likes
Well,
going.
I mean, he says as much, but
yeah.
Like, he really does it. And,
No, yeah.
you know...
I've always felt that way. And there's been a lot of people that we've talked to who are like,
South by... Well, we mentioned it briefly in the middle of talking to him, but there was that one thing, we were out to dinner, and it was the week before South by.
Yeah.
And he showed us his schedule.
I wanted to take a nap right then.
I was just like, I
can't. I need to prep for this. There's not enough coffee in the planet
like pulling
to keep me away from
my
it.
eyes! Just the idea of all those commitments in that one period of time.
Yeah, so many commitments for just a 6-day period of time.
But this is a great example. Look, if you want to be in that part of the industry, right?
Absolutely.
That's the passion you have to have for it.
Again, if you want to be in any part of the industry, because if you're a band, you want to play there as many times during the week as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to figure out how to get there, how to pay for it, where to park, where to stay.
Yep. What kind of gigs you're going to do on the way to it. What kind of gigs you're going to do on the way home.
Exactly. There's a lot of work involved.
And it can be amazing.
Yeah. Well, you get to play music.
Right.
And I think that the way AJ would talk about it is he gets to go listen to music.
Exactly. Go work with bands and make things happen. And
he has a lot, but really, how bad is that?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right. So we're very excited about this. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
Enjoy another conversation. With A.J. Tobey.
A.J. Tobey, thank you, sir.
Hello.
Thank you for... Good, man.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for being on the podcast again. You know,
you were the first guest.
You were our first, A.J.
Was that the first?
You were.
Is that true?
That's
true.
Yes,
it is absolutely true.
I don't know if I realized that. I guess I might have realized that. Wow. Well, I'm honored and happy to be back.
Absolutely.
For your last, I assume? Is this it?
No. We're going to keep going. We're just
but when it gets to that point, we'll make sure that you're
That's
you're
exactly
the last
right.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you want to just dive into episode 4, or has this not turned into a Game of Thrones podcast like everything else?
This is not... no Game of Thrones necessary on this one.
Right.
There are other podcasts taking care of that.
Interesting. Yeah, you're trying a different path than every other podcast I listen to.
There you go. All right, so we're always being different.
You know us. We're always trying to be original, man.
Sure.
So one of the things we thought you are in a unique position to talk about that people know about, but not everybody has had the consistent experience that you have is South by Southwest, and this was your 15th year.
It was
of going to South by Southwest, right?
Yep,
So
in a row,
which is amazing, a little bit crazy.
It's exhausting to reflect on, but
I bet
fun
it is.
every time.
Well, like I told you, man, that one time when you showed us your schedule
I
of
got
what
tired
you were
just
going to do for that week,
literally. I got tired just looking at it. I was like, I think I need to lie down. I need to lie down.
Just think about that sometimes. I start to weep just a little bit. I'm like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could handle that project. So like, what have you seen in the last 15 years with that? Like, how's it changed? How does it?
What is it, first of all, for people who might not know?
Sure. I mean, I think it gets billed as a music festival. It is really very far from that. It's much more of a music conference, per se, in the fact that most of the attendees are people who work in music on the music industry side. I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of people that go just for fun. I certainly know of many who have in the past. But I feel like it's really geared more towards people that are either working in the industry, aspiring to do so, or are a musician artist themselves. And it's I'd call it a networking event, but it's tens of thousands of people that go, so it's a bit chaotic, and it's more of a you get out of it what you put into it. It is what you make of it entirely. It doesn't really provide anything for you specifically. It's just kind of everything is there for you to seek out yourself. It's not like you get there and they hand you a name tag and send you into the room and you just start shaking hands with people. You literally get there and they hand you 2 drink tickets, and they tell you that they're good for a drink someplace that I've never bothered to even look for, because generally my week starts the moment I pick up my badge at the conference center, and tend to walk out of that and directly to some sort of a show or a day party, or to meet somebody that I work with. But so I think that South by Southwest is a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I think that people get different things out of it, and some people go just for a lighter experience of being able to wander around and see new artists. And learn things about of what's going on in music right now. Other people go to have meetings, to meet with people that they've either been trying to get face-to-face with but have never been in the same city with, or which is good for overseas stuff. If you're an artist that's looking to expand into overseas, there's a big contingent of people that come over from all over the world, and that's a great place to meet up with them.
Yeah,
if you're not going to be in their country, or they're not going to be in your city anytime soon. And for me, I tend to have a lot of bands playing that I work with. This year was on the low side. It's been double this in the past, but I think I was at 26 artists that I look after that
That's
were
all?
performing.
So it's usually 50?
Just
so
26?
It was a chill year, yeah.
Right, chill,
Really,
yeah, exactly.
God.
Just keeping track of
It really
26
got to-
bands, piece of cake.
26 bands, and is it 5 days?
Yeah, I went Monday to Sunday, so
Okay.
six days on the ground.
Good 6 days on the ground for 26 bands. Oh yeah, no problem.
Piece of cake.
Yeah, I think I saw most of them. Some of them a couple of times. But so I mean, you can spend your week in any variety of ways that could be beneficial to you and what you're trying to accomplish. Some people just book meetings all day, every day. They just wander around, jumping from meeting to meeting, or they, post up shop in their hotel lobby and people meet them there. I have a friend who once went and spent 2 full days just at a table of a hotel restaurant that was out on the curb. There was a few tables out, like that was their outdoor seating, was like curb seating. And he just sat there with bottles of rosé that would just get refilled as they would empty, and people would just walk by and see him and duck in and just sit with him and have a glass of rosé. And he just did that for like 8 hours straight, 2 days in a row. Didn't make one meeting, and said he met with like 45 people.
Wow.
So there's any number of ways to do this. That one I found very impressive. Also, not the way I'd prefer to do it, but if you knew this guy, it would make sense.
That's more like the Godfather thing, like where they come to you.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. He was just picking people off the sidewalk left and right. Like, hey,
that's awesome.
Have a seat. So, yeah, I mean, I've gotten to a point where I no longer schedule meetings. I've got so many bands to look after, and that has to be my number one priority, that if there's anybody I want to meet with, they ask me for a meeting. I counter with, when are you thinking? And then they give me a time frame on a certain day, and then I tell them what 2 or 3 shows I'll be bouncing around to during that hour.
Yeah.
And tell them they're welcome to join me for any of them or all of them, and we can certainly chat at the shows, but I do have places that I need to be, and I'm at a point now where I can no longer really carve out a lot of time just to sit around and chat with people. Also, I live in New York, right. And I'm in LA often enough that it's a lot of the people that you do run into that you want to see are people that you're kind of already seeing in the regular world on a regular basis anyway. Right. And so, I'd rather focus my time on trying to see crazy bands from Japan that are only playing the U.S. for that 1 week.
So you said New York and L.A. You're still doing Nashville trips, though, too, yes?
Nashville is still somewhat on the radar, not as much as it was, but yeah, still back and forth out of there. Slightly different initiative down there at this point, but still a great stable of artists that we work with who are doing incredible work, and still working very closely with them. So yeah, still in and out of there.
So as head of A&R for Rough Trade, what is your responsibility to your bands while you're there?
I mean,
what are you trying to do for it? What is it? What's the end game?
It varies by the band for sure.
Right.
There are bands go for different reasons. A good reason to go to South by is because there is something on your team that is missing.
Okay.
Whether you don't have a booking agent or a manager, or you're looking for a new label, or it ends up being an opportunity to showcase for pretty much the entire music industry. So as a band looking for a piece of that puzzle, a good strategy, or what a lot of bands have done and been successful with, is to go down there and book 5 to 8 shows over the course of 4 or 5 days.
Sure.
And to kind of target the people that you would want to work with in those areas, and to hit them up with your schedule a week or two before it starts, so that they are aware of the 5 to 8 times they will have to be able to see you play.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And at that point, you can kind of figure out whether or not they're interested, because they can figure it out if they need to. And if they still don't show up, then they probably don't want to work with you.
Right.
But if they actually do want to work with you and are just curious about the live show as a component of why they would want to, then it's a great opportunity for them to be able to see you. I've discovered many a band at South by over the years, and have a really awful habit of seeing a band early in the week and absolutely falling in love with them, and then going to see them 5 more times throughout that week. Which is something I've done on multiple occasions.
But that's a great that's a great thing for a band to know about people who are like you are about music, where if you're passionate about something, you're going to go at it, and you'll be interested in working with it.
And that's kind of how the week works as well. For the people that are making meetings in their hotel day in and day out, and then maybe hitting a showcase or 2 only in the evenings, they're sticking to an agenda, and they've probably got meetings for a reason, and there's conversations that need to take place that they've decided are going to happen that week, and hopefully they all accomplish their missions. But I prefer to bump into the people that are doing what I'm doing, who are freaking out about the band they saw early in the week and have seen twice since and are going to see 3 more times. I want to find that person, and I want them to tell me all about it so that I can go see them those last 3 times with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's more what's fun for me, is being able to kind of ride the wave. I mean, I've always got targets in mind. I mean, like I said, 20, 26, 27 bands playing that we already look after. So, of course, if they send me what their agenda is, hey, I'm looking for a booking agent, these are all of our shows, sure, then I'll slash my booking agent friends with their flyer and let them know about the band and send the record or whatever, and show up at the show. And, of course, if I see any of those people, and try to talk up the band while they're playing and kind of hang with them and whatever. So there's that end of it. But beyond that, I'm also looking for new talent. So I roll in with my little list of the things that have kind of appealed to me in the process leading up to South by for whatever reason, that I would like to check out live and see what that's all about. And it ends up being twice as many that are on that list already of bands you hear about once you're there.
Oh, that's awesome. There is so much to unpack in the last two minutes of what you just said.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So, the first thing that I want to just double back on is to say, you mentioned if you're a band and you're looking for something like this is a great place for you to showcase. And
yes.
The first thing I would ask about that then is, who books those shows for the band? How does that happen?
There are a very large variety of different entities booking these events. So the structure of the conference as it pertains to the performance aspect is that basically every night starting at 8 p.m. are official showcases. Okay. So the city of Austin has no shortage of bars and clubs that have stages and PAs, and they will utilize just about anything and turn it into a venue, food truck, hotel bathroom, whatever. So there are literally thousands of places that you can play, and then it's a matter of the evening showcases are booked by the conference itself. South by has a submission process, or whether it's, if you're an individual band, you send in your application, they review it, they let you know whether or not they're going to allow you to participate. If they say that you are, then they're going to probably assign you a showcase slot somewhere throughout the week in that 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Window of time. You'll either play, probably on the hour, 8, 9, 10, up to 1 a.m.
Right.
Or, labels can also submit where then they would get probably a full showcase to themselves, where they get the entire evening at a venue, where they can then pick the lineup from their own roster. Sometimes,
Gotcha.
A couple of labels will team up. If someone doesn't have enough bands going to fill the whole night, then maybe 2 or 3 labels will kind of split the night. Maybe they'll alternate. Maybe they'll take 3 at a time and do it in chunks. Booking agencies generally will have their own. Basically, people are creating situations for the bands they work with to have an evening showcase that they have control over. If if the conference is picking your slot, you're totally it's a matter of luck whether or not you'll be playing in front of anyone or not. You could be a mile outside of town at 1 a.m. and in a neighborhood where everything closes at 11, so everyone's vacated, so you're kind of at their mercy at that point, whether or not it's going to be worthwhile. But if you're working with somebody that you already work with, who's putting the show together, then you should trust them to put an evening together that will hopefully be full of the right people for the duration of the evening. So those are sort of the different scenarios for those evening showcases. Then, in most bands play only one evening showcase throughout the whole week.
Okay.
They always make exceptions if there's a buzzy band, an overseas band, something that people are really talking about, and they're not worried about people not showing up to everyone because they're playing more than one. Then they'll allow some bands to play multiple nights. Like Fontaine's DC, I think, played every night this week. Just because of all the crazy buzz that they had going on with the new album and whatever. So, so there was that, and then during the day is pure chaos. There's no rules. Anyone can rent a venue, any space, any creative idea you have where you can have bands perform in a scenario. You can rent a space as if you're a blog magazine, if you're again a booking agency, label, like a lot of times labels will do an official showcase. They'll also throw a day party, just again to give their bands 2 chances to play a well curated event. Most of the major blogs do them. I mean, any brand, anyone can do it. Like as long as you're willing to pay what the venue is asking for the rental fee and pay the staff, and it doesn't hurt to have something for free from behind the bar, whether it's through a liquor sponsor or something. And just to try to get more people in the room. But and for those, bands can play as many as they want. So this is when bands will play 2 or 3 shows during the day. There are plenty of bands that just book a show every 2 hours, and they just play, pack up, get to the next ones, and just repeat over and over and over again. So the days are a bit more crazy and kind of more fun and relaxed, and most of those shows are just free. You need a badge to get into the evening showcases that you would get from the festival, which is not necessarily cheap. I think you can get, as a student, I believe there's all sorts of tiered pricing. But and also plenty of schools send students and pay for it for them if you're a part of the radio station or the music business program or whatever. There's plenty of schools that have a partnership with South by, from what I can tell. So that's kind of the structure of the days and the different ways that bands can participate in it.
The other thing that I wanted to follow up on is when you go, so like a band will let you know as their, for Rough Trade, as their A&R guy, that, hey, we're looking for a manager, we're looking for, a booking agent maybe, and then you try to facilitate that through your connections. Did I hear that right? Is that?
I try to help with it where I can. I make no promises. As a publisher, it's certainly not our responsibility as a company
I just was surprised to
put
hear
a
you
team
say
together.
that.
But as a publisher, we're going to be more successful the better a band is doing overall. So, of course, if there's anything I can do to help that along, I am always willing to. I'm happy to help shop albums or bands for various ideas. But sometimes, it's out of my reach, it's out of my realm, and sometimes it's just a few phone calls away. And of course, if I can, then I will. Yeah.
So that is the kind of thing that happens a lot, where different members of the team, like say there was a manager that knew they were looking for a booking agent, they might, and you guys were already representing the band, they might reach out to you and say, hey, I'm thinking this. Is there anybody that's looking for this kind of thing?
I have these conversations every day. Absolutely. It's centered around South by and otherwise around the rest of the year as well.
And that's why I wanted to bring that up. That's a part of the networking part of the industry, the part of everybody knows everybody, part of the industry that I think lots of people misunderstand. That it's good for you to have, if you have a band, it's good for you. I mean, you won't have a band that doesn't have a really good manager. And it's good for the manager and for you, for that band to also have a good booking agency, and so everybody's interested in having a good team put together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what's going to ultimately, step one, have good songs, and then step two, get people behind you in those songs that can get other people to listen to them. Yeah. Preferably on a larger scale. And this is how this happens. This is how, half of the bands that I sign come from a trusted source, and generally somebody I'm already working with in some capacity, and like, hey, I just picked up this band for management. Check it out. They don't have a publisher. I'm like, all right, well, you have good taste and I like working with you.
Right.
This is good. Why wouldn't I do it?
Absolutely. Well, and so interesting. And it also, I love the way you're talking about this, because it also helps dispel the myth about South by Southwest that a band, an unknown band from nowhere that nobody's ever heard of, all you have to do is get a spot at South by, and you will get discovered, and you will be on your way and be amazing.
Oh boy!
Right? Yeah. Like, because that's the thing. That is the sort of the magical thinking narrative, right? That you get one magical gig,
right? The fantasy,
the
one magical gig, and then it's it. I've got it. And it's not
one thing I didn't mention was that I think probably 85% of the shows that are taking place at South by are of complete uselessness, where there's nobody going to them. I'm glad they all exist. It looks great on a schedule when a band posts it, to have those extra 4 shows that they really didn't have to play.
Yeah. Right.
But in order for it to be worth their while, you really do need to have 2 or 3 shows that are going to be great. If you don't get accepted into the conference, or you do directly and they put you on some weird show that's not going to be good, and that's all you've got, and you're just adding whatever you can get your hands on just because you heard there's a show and you hit up somebody through email and they said, sure, why not, you can play, that show's probably going to run 3 hours late anyway, and anyone that would actually be trying to see you is going to miss your set regardless. So the key more so is to try and hinge the entire week off a few meaningful plays, and then fill in the gaps as you're comfortable doing.
That's great. I love that, because again, that's when you said, "Oh boy," I love that answer, because that's exactly. That's the whole. All right, let us pull the curtain back on this magical thinking. Right.
I mean, as a band, South by is expensive, inconvenient, uncomfortable. You're sleeping in the van or on a floor somewhere miles outside of town.
Right.
There's nowhere to park near any of the venues. Most of the streets are shut down. It is too hot. You're playing outdoors in the blazing sun half the time.
Right.
There's no water, plenty of beer. Like, you're just going to get yourself in trouble.
Well, what I love about you talking about this and describing it this way, and like Michael, where you're saying, unpacking all the stuff that AJ was saying, is that this sounds like a really great way to think about your career. Like, treat your career and understand your career like you would treat South by. Understand that there isn't one magic bullet anywhere in your career. And AJ, like you said, first, have great songs.
Have great songs.
Right? Let's start by being awesome, be talented, be something that is going to be of value to everybody, that's true and real.
And for South by, have great songs, but also be great live is equally important. Because if those songs get lost in translation on the live show, then no one will even realize how great your songs are, and it was, again, a wasted trip in the first place.
Great point. So make sure you're ready for this kind of an experience.
Yeah, be great live under the most possibly stressful scenario ever as a band. I should add that in.
And then probably the constant one is just sort of that we always talk about a lot is, don't be a dick.
Yes, certainly, unavoidable at times because
it's hot.
Take the worst sound guy at the worst venue you've ever met on tour, and now think about the guy that got fired before that guy, and he's the one that got hired to work the show at South by.
And it's a
he's
town
the one
full
picking
of them.
up freelance gigs that week.
Yeah.
So try not to be a dick, but some people that week there are certainly exceptions.
Well, that's good. See, and an industry veteran like you is going to understand that. So you'll be able to see past that.
Say that. So the other thing that you mentioned that I thought was really, really cool to hear, that I don't want to gloss over, is when you said that you will have a list of the kinds of things that you are looking to do while you're there.
And or looking for.
Or looking for.
Yeah, mostly just a list of bands that I'm trying to see. And so sometimes I have the luxury of being able to email the manager and getting that schedule sent over. Sometimes I'm on Facebook trying to look for random flyers that they posted because they're not organized enough to have it all in one place. But the idea being that I've got a full schedule of things I want to see with as many options to do so as possible,
And so the easier that bands make it for you to know where the hell they're going to be, the more likely it is that they're going to see you at one of their shows.
Yeah, I would actually say that's very important, and there's probably a lot of bands that I would have loved to have seen that I just gave up on trying to because they did not, because on their website or whatever page they kind of use, instead of having the each individual show that they're playing with what's most important, their set time, they just block off a week and say South by. They're just going to be there, and we're all going to find out about it on our own somehow. If a band actually lists out every single show and is like, we're on at 2:30 this day, we're on at 4:30 this day, we're playing at 1, 3, and 5 on this day, then I'm going to write it all down. I'm probably going to see one of them. If they just say we're playing this showcase that starts at 1 p.m. And goes all night, then what do I do with that? I can't. I'm not going to sit around all day at the showcase waiting for them to go on. But if I know for a fact they play at 3:45, then I'll probably get there at 3:50 and check out a handful of songs.
That's all right. So
I love the idea of you just they're going to play sometime between 1 and 2 in the morning. I'm just going to hang out at this spot.
Right.
For that.
Which is, an understandable mentality for a band playing a show. I mean, that's the courteous move, really. If you're playing a show and there's 3 or 4 bands on the bill, then that's cool. If you've got people coming and you want them to see all the bands, and you can keep that a little bit ambiguous. Everyone's going out for the night anyway, just to one location. But for South by Southwest, it is so important that you were very specific. You need to be very selfish that week, and you need to make it about you, and you need to make sure that it's centered on you. Everyone's looking out for themselves, and it kind of has to be that way because everyone has a lot to keep track of.
And I'm going to sort of dive in on that too, and make even clearer what you were just saying, which is if you are a band and you want people to come see you at South by or anywhere, make it easy for them to plan around it. Everybody's busy. Everybody is doing too many things and it needs to be in too many places. And there's a possibility you're saying there's a band you want to see. Oh man, I really want to check them out at South by. and you can't find out when they're showcasing. You've only got so much time. You're not going to see them.
Yeah, I mean, if I never find out when they're playing, then I don't know how I would in the first place.
Right.
I've also only set aside so much time for myself the week before to track down these schedules and write them down and put them in my phone so that I have them when I have a minute free and I can be like, oh, wow, I've got a half hour to kill. Where am I and what's happening near me? And I can look at my schedule and see if there was anything I wanted to see that's in my proximity and easy to get to.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was getting at when I'm was talking about the list. So it's you give yourself basically the week before, and you sort of go, all right, I'm going to see what I can gather, what information I can gather to sort of plan out this week, other than the 26 to 52 bands that I am representing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I ask around. People also start sending me the people that, normally send me stuff to consider for signing. Lawyers, managers are also sending schedules around. I always try to listen through all that stuff. Anything that people have been talking about, anything that's already caught my eye. A lot of overseas stuff. Things I've been hearing about that are doing well in the UK that haven't made it over here yet. If that's coming through, then that usually goes on the list too. If anything, just to see what the hype's all about.
Sure.
And try to put together a schedule for myself that makes sense, and a lot of it does just kind of sit there as a backup plan. I always kind of have enough that I'm either really interested in or already working with to kind of fill every hour of every day. But sometimes it's over ambitious and I can't get to that thing. So instead I go, well, that's too far. I'll never get there in time. What's next door? And then I can look at my schedule and see, is there anything happening on this block that I wrote down because I was curious about it? And I will duck into things consistently for that reason.
Oh, totally makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. So then I think the next thing that I'd love to talk about is asking you what kind of changes, both for the good and for the not so good, you've seen over the last 15 years.
Sure. I mean, the conference itself has been going on for much, much longer than that. So I still feel like I'm in on the tail end of it. Maybe eventually I'll get to what I consider the back half. But it is the changes I've seen when I started going 15 years ago. It was an eye-opening new experience for me as a kid in his early 20s, and just sort of overwhelmed in a good way with everything around me. I was working with a couple different labels at the time, and I kind of stuck to them and their schedules and just sort of took the relationships I already had with the people that I was dealing with who I hadn't met yet, and kind of spent the week with them. I remember spending a lot of time with the Barsuk Records guys, a lot of time with the Dangerbird guys, and just kind of staying on their circuits. They each had enough going on that I could kind of bounce around and just keep seeing their bands, and then things I wanted to see for fun, just out of my own personal taste. I wasn't in a position to really be signing bands at the time. I was marketing my marketing company, so any opportunity that I felt like I could maybe get myself hired on something, I certainly was seeking out those opportunities. It was, so personally, it was definitely like an early stages of growth for me in the music industry. So it felt smaller. I don't know if it was. My world was smaller.
Sure.
As I said, it is what you make of it. You can head out to a ranch a mile outside of town that has day parties and evening shows and just hang out there and never see anything or anybody except for what's going on there. Or you can be right in the heart of downtown where there's 10, 15 venues on every block and just bounce around and see 1,000 things. That week was the first week for me was a combination of that. I just remember it being not overly corporate, a lot of great showcases from a lot of great labels and people, and got to see a lot of cool stuff and meet a lot of people that I had not met face-to-face yet. Over the course of a few years, things started to get a bit out of hand. This was... I don't know what the marker in time, the catalyst for it was, but it all of a sudden just became a feeding frenzy for big corporations. And I think that the culmination of it all, the apex of that moment, was the first year of the Doritos stage, the infamous Doritos stage, which is still the thing that will never not be mentioned in any conversation about South by with anyone that was there that year. Well, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, I got to experience it incredibly firsthand. A band that I was managing at the time was asked to perform on said stage. It was a day party on the first day that the stage was up, and it was curated by the band's publisher. They were like, "Hey, we're throwing a day party. It's on a stage sponsored by Doritos. Are you interested in playing?" And of course, we're like, "Yeah, why wouldn't we?
Sure,
That's great."
right.
We got like as I said, we have the label showcase in the evening. Now we've got the publisher showcase during the day.
Nice.
We'll build from there. And so didn't read into it too much. Didn't really flip through the packet that they sent. Just sort of wrote the address and time down, as I was even then okay about getting information out early, trying to make it available to people.
Right.
So it was Dorito stage in this parking lot at this address. Like, okay, well, I've heard weirder things, especially for South by. Sounds good. We show up for load-in and sound check in the morning, and there is a 5-story Doritos vending machine in the middle of this parking lot with bags of Doritos the size of 3 people. And it's this insane contraption, and there's quarters the size of you that you are supposed to put into the machine, and then an actual normal size bag of Doritos comes out. They were launching the was it the bigger, crunchier ones? What were those called? I don't know if they even lasted.
I have no memory of that whatsoever.
It was like, I mean, it was definitely like the worst idea in the sense that let's make a Dorito that doesn't fit in your mouth in one go.
Yeah,
you have to bite it. Like, it was just, it was very bizarre. And we showed up and we were like, this is going to be a thing. So they were the second band to play it at all. And in the evening, it was all sponsored events, Snoop and Gaga, and they were really utilizing it in the evening as like these sort of bigger, like, corporate sponsored headliners,
right,
to push the brand of Doritos, or I think some of them were collaborations where it's like, oh, it's Doritos and Esurance. What a combination! Like only at South by, those two team up. So,
beautiful.
So it's now gone down in history as the biggest blemish on South by is the Dorito stage, and I have the pleasure of sharing the experience that I spent 40 minutes on that stage on the first day of it being up. Which was ridiculous because it was also, the stage itself was the size of a medium-sized festival stage in this small parking lot next to the Hilton, like in the middle of downtown. So, so that was sort of the peak of that era, and to kind of perpetuate the point I just made, so that also was the not just the era of eyesores, but also overspending on big secret headliners. That was when Stubbs is the big outdoor venue. It still only holds maybe 3,000 people. It's certainly not an amphitheater. It's not an arena. It's nothing like that. It's a club. It's a venue. It's just an outdoor space.
Yeah.
Similar to just a large venue in any other city. And they would have, most of those nights would be unannounced until the day of. I saw Metallica there. I saw the Foo Fighters would play. Like, they would just do these crazy sponsored, secret, massive arena-sized headliners that they'd probably pay millions of dollars, and it would be a branded event from some big dumb corporation that you don't actually care about. And it's a ploy to have to sign up online and obviously like get marketed to for the rest of your life.
Right.
For a chance to get a lottery ticket, to wait in line for 3 hours, to
Right.
I would if there was one of those headliners that would be of interest, there would be immediate question: who's opening?
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
Right.
And if it's someone I work with, well, I guess I'll go if they can get me in. But
Nice.
I'm not going to play that game. But we also had plenty of bands that weren't on that massive level kind of cashing in on those as well. Like bands that aren't even playing the festival just be like, oh, no, I'm showing up. We're playing one set. We're getting a boatload of money for it. And we just have to talk about how nice our free watches are in between one song.
I love it.
So a lot of silliness that really didn't seem to add up, and we kind of had to endure that for many a year. And then, music industry started to do what it does, and its little downturn started to take place, and then all of a sudden they introduced Interactive Week at South by Southwest, which is based on startups and tech companies and apps and all of the things that all of the money has gone into in the past few years.
Right.
And all of the sponsors immediately pivoted and threw all of their money and energy into those events that took place the week before music started.
Okay.
And then we were left alone again, and slowly over the last few years, we've kind of worked ourselves down to a point where there are no big crazy headliners. No big surprises that people were freaking out about. No bands that would cause for there to be massive lines at showcases. It just kind of got back to what I remember it being when I started going, which was a lot of cool bands, many of which are from overseas who don't get to play over here very often, playing as many shows as they can so that all these people have the chance to check them out. And I feel like this year the lines were shorter, nothing was overcrowded. I got to see everybody I wanted to see because even the big buzzy bands that had 1 million shows like Black Midi and Fontaines and whatever else was the big talked about ones, they were playing enough shows that people didn't have to wait in line. If it was full, just look at your calendar and say, I'll see them again in 2 hours. Cool.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
then maybe get to that one a minute earlier. But there was no waiting in line because I have to see this. This is my only chance. It was
right.
It was it was spread out enough that you were always kind of confident you get to see everything you wanted to. So that's been the main change that I noticed. It just felt less chaotic this year, being the high point of the least amount of chaos.
Well, and certainly it sounds like that goes hand in hand with it being less corporate.
I mean, with less money getting injected into it, there's definitely less bands willing to play. The Foo Fighters don't need to show up at South by. There's really nothing left on their agenda that they have to check off that is going to happen there that week.
Right.
They could sit that one out unless if somebody made it worth their while. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, fan building is not really an issue for them anymore.
Well, and so for the aspiring and emerging artists, make sure that you are playing live. Make sure that you are building a fan base. Make sure that you have merch. Make sure that you are interacting with your fan base. And
please know how to work a merch table.
Work a merch table.
Interact with fans.
There's my little
line. I second all that. Availability and direct interactions, whether those are face-to-face at the merch table, whether that's being so charismatic on stage that people leave your show feeling like they know you now.
Great points.
Or just responding to comments on your Facebook page and trying to be funny or playful or just nice.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. You'd be surprised how meaningful those tiny little moments can be for a fan, and how it may keep you on the top of the pile, whereas they can listen to anything they want right now. Right this second. They can open their phone up and dial up any song from any band, and your goal as an artist is to be that band they go to because they've still got some warm and fuzzy feeling in their brain about you and want to keep that feeling going by putting your music on.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
That's it, man.
That's right there. That is, we're going to loop that.
That's the button.
That's what we're going to loop so everybody can hear it.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for doing this with us today, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
We really, really did want to talk about South by with you because, there's no one that we know who has enjoyed it more, been there more, hated it more,
And
I
loved
just
it.
reveled in
I
it.
do feel like it's a test of my insanity, how I catch myself begrudgingly looking forward to it every year.
That's it, exactly.
Right.
As it nears, and how everybody else on the internet just complains about it, and I just look at them like, you should be so lucky. Are our lives that bad?
Exactly. Man, I love the way you said it. That's exactly why we wanted to talk to you about it, because it's the begrudgingly looking forward to it that I
Yeah.
have experienced being in your orbit over the years.
Absolutely,
Beautiful.
man. Love that.
Beautiful.
All right, AJ, you're the man. We really appreciate you giving us your time, man.
Thanks, guys. You guys are the best.
That was awesome.
Grudgingly looking forward to.
I love that. That should be on a business card. Do you know what I mean? Grudgingly looking forward to working with you. Right? Like that's.
I don't know. It would have to be a really specific
I don't know.
kind of business.
You could do that as a
To
plumber,
have that on. Well,
right?
nah, I don't want my plumber grudgingly working with me at all.
You're right.
Grudgingly
Maybe
looking
you
forward
should
to
put
it.
that on your business
Don't
card.
put that on your business card. It's it's what Adam does.
It's
It's what he sleeps in sometimes.
Well, I sleep
It's like-
sometimes. So, but there you go. So, if you're in this for the long haul, you guys,
Yeah.
have a passion for it.
Yes.
Have good people skills. Be organized. Understand it's the long game.
Be nimble.
Be nimble.
Know that the industry is going to change, and that
Yep.
festivals are going to change, and that
Yes.
conferences are going to change, and they could change the week that you're there.
You might
man.
show up and there's a giant quarter and a big Dorito machine. Whatever, man.
It could happen. You need to be ready.
Be ready.
to rise to that occasion
Exactly
of
right.
the 30-foot,
Dorito stage.
three-story Doritos
Exactly.
stage.
But here's the thing. Whatever it is, be passionate, be organized,
Be professional.
and remember, you got this.
We got your back.